Shots ring out in a West Little Rock neighborhood this morning between ATF agents and the executive director of the Clinton National Airport. Good evening and thanks for joining us for Fox 16 News at 6:30. I'm Kevin Kelly. Our Neil Zarang at the scene shortly after it happened and explains what prompted the exchange of gunfire.
The airport director was shot at least twice because state police say there were gunshot wounds. An ATF agent was shot once and we're told it was with non-life-threatening injuries. And both are now in area hospitals from last with what we've been told.
I'm just really curious as to what was going on a few houses down.
Neighbors in the dark as ATF arrived at 4 Durant Court Tuesday morning. It was around 6 a.m. Their operation to serve a federal search warrant went sideways.
I heard about 5 or 6 loud bangs.
Shay DeBryan woke up to the gunfire and witnessed an ambulance, fire truck, and multiple law enforcement agencies swarm the street. Even with an explanation given by authorities that homeowner and Clinton National Airport Executive Director Bryan Malinowski shot toward ATF agents first and they returned fire, injuring both sides, she has questions.
I talked to other neighbors and all of us are just kind of confused.
An investigation is ongoing into whether the use of deadly force was justified. Our station contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Arkansas to try and obtain a copy of the warrant to learn what it was for, but we were told we could not see it.
I've only heard good things about the lady that lives there, and it's just sad to hear that this happened.
State police said additional information will be released as it becomes available. And early this evening, we did see that firefighters returned to the scene. They brought circular saws, crowbars, and other pieces of equipment the Little Rock Fire Department tells me are used to cut through metal. We asked what it is they're cutting through, and they couldn't tell me at this time. Reporting in Little Rock, Neil Zarang, Fox 16 News.
Neil, thank you very much. And earlier this afternoon, the Little Rock Airport Commission releasing a statement saying their executive director, Bill Walker, said in part, quote, "Today's incident saddens us and we pray for everyone involved. The airport's day-to-day operations continue as normal." The commission also named an interim executive director, Tom Clark. The airport's deputy executive director will now serve in that position. We have new information tonight following yesterday's shootout between a Little Rock Airport executive and ATF agents. Tonight, for the first time, the brother of the man who was being served that search warrant is speaking out. Our Katrin Asaf spoke on the phone with Matthew Malinowski, the brother of Clinton National Executive Director Bryan Malinowski. He says right now they're in the dark and they want to know what happened yesterday morning.
It just doesn't make any sense the way they did it.
One day after this quiet neighborhood in West Little Rock woke to the sound of gunshots, Bryan Malinowski's brother, Matthew, is sitting at an attorney's office, thinking of what to do next.
I think the next thing is go to the house and take as many pictures as possible of all the damage.
Malinowski was the subject of an ATF search warrant early Tuesday morning. The executive director of Clinton National Airport caught in a shootout that left one agent hospitalized and Bryan on life support.
He's mortally wounded. He was shot in the head with a high-caliber weapon.
As evidence is collected and neighbors adjust to the shock, Matthew is holding his own investigation.
Right now, we're trying to gain truth and facts.
Trying to figure out why his brother was targeted.
Bryan has no incentive to do anything illegal.
And what led agents to break in the way they did.
The ATF should have never raided him like they did. They could have thrown tear gas in there. They could have thrown a shot grenade in there. They could have just said with air horns, "Hey, get your tail out here. We're the ATF."
While Matthew says Bryan collected weapons, guns, and coins at his home on Durant's Court. He says he's never been in trouble with the law before. And with no word from law enforcement on what exactly was in that search warrant, Matthew is left planning for an uncertain future with more questions than answers.
I'm confused. I'm tired. I'm living on adrenaline at the moment.
Katrin Asaf reporting. Matthew also telling Fox 16 they will pursue litigation as much as they can. In fact, he met with attorneys today to see what can be done. He also said Bryan's wife was next to him during that shootout. An ATF agent was shot as well, and we're told they're expected to be okay.
Right now, we're trying to gain truth and facts. And what we've gained so far is that the ATF should have never raided him like they did.
Strong words from the family of Clinton National Airport Executive Director Bryan Malinowski, who died this morning following a firefight earlier this week with federal agents. His death also coming on the same day agents released the affidavit, which paints in detail why they raided his house. Our Neil Zarang reports on what the more than 50 pages of the newly released affidavit reveals and how the family is reacting to it.
Hours after Bryan Malinowski died from his injuries, federal authorities released their reason for searching his home Tuesday. Actions that led to ATF agents and Malinowski shooting at each other, injuring both sides. The documents allege between May 2021 and February 2024, Malinowski purchased over 150 known firearms, many of which were then resold. Approximately 6 were recovered by law enforcement during criminal investigations. Undercover agents recount Malinowski saying at a gun show he was a private seller, therefore no paperwork was needed to be filled out for a purchase. Malinowski stated the customer just had to be over 21, end quote. On March 6, a warrant was issued for violations of dealing in firearms without a license and unlawful acquisition of a firearm. They say the search was done quickly and in secret to prevent evidence from being lost. An attorney representing the Malinowski family sent a statement after they read the affidavit. It says in part, "We are obviously concerned about the allegations in the affidavit released by the government today. Even if the allegations in the affidavit are true, they don't begin to justify what happened."
Questions surrounding why Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives agents raided the home of Little Rock Airport director are starting to finally be answered. Good evening and thanks for joining us for Fox 16 News. I'm Kevin Kelly. Bryan Malinowski died from his injuries in a shootout with ATF agents earlier this week that also resulted in a federal agent being injured. And according to an affidavit unsealed yesterday, federal authorities allege he unlawfully sold guns without a license. But that question is still being investigated. Our Neil Zarang looking closer at what's commonly referred to as the gun show loophole.
There's been a lot of debate about what they call a gun show loophole.
Where's the line when a private gun seller becomes a business? Attorneys will tell you it's a topic debated often, but there are clear rules for what either has to do.
As it stands right now, the only time that you are required to do a background check is whenever you have an FFL.
A federal firearms license allows a person to sell guns commercially, but anyone can sell a gun privately. While FFL holders are required to keep a thorough record of all transactions and perform a background check to ensure guns don't get into the hands of those who have lost their rights to possess a firearm, private sellers don't.
You don't have to ask those questions if you're a private seller.
No, you don't have to. It would be like if my dog had puppies and I was selling the puppies to you. I don't have to do a background check to see, are you a person that has abused animals in the past?
The question ATF looks at is, why are you selling guns? If you're buying and selling repeatedly, predominantly to earn a profit, they won't consider you a private seller. In Malinowski's case, federal agents claim he bought as many as 24 guns at once, saying they were for him, and would then resell the just purchased guns in as little as 24 hours.
With what he was dealing with, there was a volume that went along with the speed that his stuff was being sold. And that obviously is what piqued the interest of the ATF.
More details tonight on what prompted the federal investigation into the executive director of the Clinton National Airport that ended in a shootout in a quiet West Little Rock neighborhood. And new at 9, we're now hearing from the Malinowski family attorney on how the family is reacting and what could possibly happen next. Good evening and thank you for joining us for Fox 16 News. I'm Kevin Kelly. Bud Cummins, the family's lawyer, says he's still waiting for all the facts to come out from investigators. But he still has questions on how this all went down. Our Madison Gaffner spoke with him today. She joins us live in studio with more. Madison.
Well, Bud Cummins says through his eyes, this is a senseless tragedy, one the family is trying to understand, and that their only consolation is that they were able to fulfill Bryan's wishes this morning of being an organ donor.
It would be difficult to convince me that there was any basis to come at 6 a.m., 45 minutes before first light, over an hour before sunrise, to a private home.
Bud Cummins talking about the circumstances that led to what he says is a very difficult justification for the course of action ATF took early Tuesday morning, which led to the exchange of shots fired between ATF and Clinton National Airport Executive Director Bryan Malinowski.
They suspected that this individual had crossed a line between being a private citizen entitled to buy and sell guns into a position where he legally should have gotten a federal firearms license. That's a regulatory matter.
Cummins says agents could have chosen the route of reaching out in a letter or a phone call or contacting Malinowski's attorney, warning him of violations and letting him know he needs to apply for a license, or had him come in. However, ATF has allowed discretion on its reasoning for executing a search warrant.
It's outrageous that they thought this merited a search warrant at all, and the manner that they executed it is even more outrageous.
And for what the family is hoping for, well, they won't know fully the extent of the law they can push for until the Arkansas State Police investigation is over.
There's a number of possibilities, including criminal prosecution, civil litigation, but until all the facts are in, it's really too early to say what's appropriate.
Cummins does say that he hopes the FBI becomes involved in this investigation, and until it's time to take action, he will help the family so they can have their private time to mourn the loss of Bryan. I'm Madison Gaffner reporting live here in studio. Now back to you, Kevin.